creativity. And creativity in the sense that it seems to me, and I've been thinking about this for years, because when I was younger, I used to be in the theater. I used to be an actor. I used to be a director and a producer. This is long before I knew Jesus. I was definitely serving Satan. But in the years that I have been serving Christ, I have often wondered why. I didn't realize this at the time, but I have often wondered why the so-called great artists, and I'm talking about playwrights, directors, producers, actors, performers of any kind, dancers, singers of all different types of music, with the possible exception of country music, but pop music, certainly, opera, all of the fine arts, they tend to be, politically, they tend to be left-wingers, communists, socialists. They tend to be atheists, or pretty much any religious persuasion that is not Christianity. Why is that? And that goes back centuries. This is nothing new. Because I've been thinking about who we consider to be, in America, the greatest playwrights of the last 100 years. And my mind goes to Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, Clifford Odets, Lillian Hellman, and on it goes. Not a Republican among them. Not one. Not a Christian among them. Why not? Why are they all from the left? And that goes for Hollywood too. Now Hollywood's being exposed right now as scum pedophiles. But even going back 100 years, which they were probably scum pedophiles back then too. But for example, I can't even watch a Charlie Chaplin movie anymore because of his political views. Now, there was a time when I was able to separate political views and art. I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. I can't watch an Arthur Miller play anymore. And what is better than Death of a Salesman? What is more intense and better written than Death of a Salesman? Hardly anything. Just watch the 1966 production with Lee J. Cobb and Mildred Dunnock recreating their Broadway performances in 1966. What is better than that? And of course, that particular play has all sorts of underlying anti-capitalist tones to it. It still produces an emotional punch, and at least it has some kind of point of view. But it's different than the Christian point of view. Why can't a Christian do this? Why aren't there Christian playwrights going back to the time of Shakespeare that can produce a play on the level of something that Arthur Miller produced, or on the level of Tennessee Williams produced? Tennessee Williams. Now, his grandfather was an Episcopalian minister, and I believe he was very conservative. And he lived with Tennessee Williams for a number of years towards the end of his life. And of course, Tennessee Williams, who was a homosexual, who was a drinker, he drank a lot, He lived from place to place. He was famous for being gay before it was fashionable for being gay, along with Truman Capote, another great writer. There's another great writer right there, and there was a whole circle of gay writers at that time that hung around together, and the lesser known Donald Wyndham is another one. All extremely talented, all giving us powerful works of art. And yet, where is the Christian artist? Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. I mean, can you imagine the impact if a Christian were to write something as beautiful as Glass Menagerie? With that kind of poetry, for Christ, giving glory to Yahweh, can you imagine the impact that would have? Now, I believe that Yahweh gave these people that I have mentioned their, and I'm going to say God-given talent or destiny, but they used it for something else. They were supposed to use it for Yahweh, and for whatever reason they got off the track, they rebelled, whatever the case may be, they didn't. And many of what they wrote, many of the things that they wrote, of course, are anti-Christian. Now, I can see that Tennessee Williams, he struggled with Christianity. He struggled with it. That is evident in even his lesser plays. And I think because of the influence that his grandfather had on him. He was not a devout atheist. He knew there was a God. It doesn't seem to me that he accepted Christ as his personal Savior. Of course, you don't know what happened in the last years of somebody's life, the last moments of somebody's life. We can always hope. But as he got older and his works got more embittered, his writings got more embittered, but there's still a style and a beauty that is missing from Christian writing. The Christian world of art, going back centuries on a local level. But that's it. There aren't the great works of the great film. Where is the Christian Charlie Chaplin, as I mentioned? I can't watch his films anymore because all I see is a communist, somebody who really hated America. Now I'm going to say something that is probably going to be very unpopular, although I'm not the first person to say it. But Senator McCarthy, Joe McCarthy, during the 1950s, during the so-called witch hunt, I think he was absolutely right in calling them to face Congress and the Senate, whoever they were facing, during the so-called witch hunt. Because there was a Red Scare that infiltrated Hollywood. But Hollywood, I believe, as I do research, was always set up for that single purpose, as to exploit whatever they were going to exploit that socialist tendencies, that communistic tendencies, and even the pedophilia that we are hearing so much about now has been going on for over 100 years in that place. And so I think, it's my opinion, and you can disagree, but in my opinion, I think Joseph McCarthy is an American hero. Now, his tactics may not have been very constitutional, but he was right. He was right, and because he became the villain, and the other ones became the victims, the ones who were blacklisted, the ones who were more than likely guilty of treason. Some of them were guilty of treason, some of them were not. Some of them were just foolish, others were absolutely guilty of treason. And yes, the right thing happened. They did not have a career. Now, there's a video floating around YouTube of the actress Betty Garrett, who I always enjoyed Betty Garrett. I first came to know her as she was on All in the Family for a couple of years in the mid-'70s as the Italian neighbors to the Bunkers, with Vincent Gardenia as her husband. Well, Betty Garrett was married to Larry Parks, the actor Larry Parks, who is best known for playing Al Jolson in the Jolson Story, and then the sequel, Jolson Sings Again. Amazing performance. Amazing performance. Great actors, both of them. But there's a video that is not that old, I guess, that Betty Garrett is being interviewed about that period of time, about being blacklisted, because Larry Parks was blacklisted because he wouldn't name names and whatever else was going on. And as she was talking, she was coming across, she was very professional, but there was still that sense of, we were victims of this witch hunt. And, I couldn't feel sorry for her. His career suffered, her career suffered. And the reason why I didn't feel any sorrow, really, I thought, yeah, right, yeah, you were doing all sorts of treasonous things against the United States of America. Absolutely. Absolutely. If I were in charge, it probably would have been a lot worse. Miss Garrett, Mrs. Parks. There was no, when she was speaking, I would have been sorry for them as a couple in their work if there was any sense of repentance. Oh, we made a mistake. We went to these meetings back in the 40s. No, they believed exactly what they were doing. They believed in bringing down the Democratic. They were bringing down the Republic. That's what they were. That's what they believed, into changing it into Obama land, which eventually happened decades later. That was very clear in this. I found to be a very chilling interview with a lady who I had always admired, and as a performer, I guess I still do. But now I can't watch the MGM musical she's in. She did On the Town with Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly and Jules Munchin. She was in that and several other musicals. Can't watch it. Can't watch Jolson, the Jolson Story with her husband, because they are enemies. It seems to me like, based on what I saw in that video, enemies of the country. They are enemies of the country. And yet, we consider them to be great artists. Very talented. Back in the day, the way that the Parks made their living after being blacklisted was they had a nightclub act. And they toured the world in the nightclubs. Would have loved to have seen them in the nightclubs. I'm sure it was an excellent night out. Where are the Christian nightclub artists? Where are the Christian actors? Now, don't give me that there's the Cloud9 Productions and these little these little productions. Where are the great works of art from the Christian community? Where are they? Well, they're being shunned by Hollywood. Well, do a different avenue than Hollywood. It's got to start somewhere. And this is decades. We gave up on the education. We turned we had a solid foundation back in the mid-19th century, and we turned it over to the likes of Horace Mann and John Dewey. And then we complain about the education system. Hello? It's the church's fault. It's the church's fault that we don't have the arts that we want. It's the church's fault that we don't have the education system we want, which is Christ-centered. Now, I'm not saying that a Christian filmmaker everything has to be biblically based or anything like that. But obviously, Arthur Miller, when he was writing The Crucible, which is based on the Salem witch trials, which he was painting a picture of the Red Scare and of Joseph McCarthy, he got his point across. Again, another excellent play. Another excellent play. And there was a very good movie production, I guess in the 90s. But it expressed his left-wing sentiments. Why aren't there any Christian people expressing their conservative values in works of art that are of the highest caliber of an Arthur Miller play? Or how about somebody as creative as Bertolt Brecht, a known socialist of Germany? Or Shaw, George Bernard Shaw, a Fabian socialist. Everywhere you look, that's all you get in the arts. In the movies, on television, we're surrounded by it. At every level. To me, it's absolutely frightening. And these are the works. And I'm not saying we shouldn't see them or experience them. Actually, these people actually should inspire the Christian to even write rebuttal plays or rebuttal movies against George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, for example, or Mrs. Warren's Profession, or anything like that, or Bertolt Brecht's Mother Courage, which has so much truth in it from his point of view, but it has so much truth in it. It's about a woman who plays both sides of the war in order to get in order to fill her bank account. Well, hello, that's what's going on today. He was absolutely right. How does the Christian compete in these types of situations? I'm not sure. I don't have an answer. I'm asking the questions. I am asking the questions. What happened to the Christian? Why isn't the Christian creative? And part of it is because we had these religious people. Certain denominations says, oh, you can't go to the movies, you can't dance because it's all dirty. One half of that is true. Now, I won't support Hollywood. I won't go see a movie from them. I don't want to hear my Lord's name taken in vain, used as a cuss word. I don't want to see the filth, there's disgusting filth. I don't want to see these people who want to kill my president in a movie and pay money to see it, and pay money to see it, and waste my time doing that. I don't think so. Not going there, and I don't think anybody should go there, and I don't think anybody, Christian or not, should be supporting Hollywood in any way at this juncture. This is a perfect opportunity, I think, for conservatives to have a point of view, to get different works out, good works out there, not just mediocrity, because let's face it, most of the Christian films that have come out in the last 20 years, they're good, they're watchable, some of them are terrible, like anything else. Have good production values. But on the, but nothing that you would call a classic. When I say classic, I'm talking about Gone with the Wind, The Godfather, Network, Sunset Boulevard, that type of caliber I'm looking for. Where is the Christian who can produce that type of caliber of work? Of course, when I was in the business and wanted to produce that type of work, I didn't know Jesus. And now, I have no desire to produce that kind of a work. I mean, it's like I was delivered from that nonsense. But at the same time, I think we need to we need to be praying for that high level. I think we do. We need to be praying for that high level of creativity so we can at least counteract. For example, we had that recently the New York, what is it? The New York Shakespeare Company with their yearly production in Central Park. Killed a Donald Trump lookalike as Julius Caesar every night for 2 weeks. I mean, it was clear what they were doing. Clear. Well, where's the rebuttal from the Christian theater mavens? Where is it? Maybe we should be supporting Christian theater. There was that program on TBN, was it 10 years ago, about the, what was it? It was about a theater group. They had a theater, and they did Christian works, and it was, again, I can't even remember the name of it. That's how memorable it was. I did watch it, though. I did watch it almost every week. It was on for like 3 years. But I can't remember the name of it. I can see the actors. I can see their faces. But some episodes were very good. Others were as cheesy as they come. This is what I'm talking about. Where is the good works from the Christians? Where is the high, if we're talking about TV series, where is, when I'm talking about the great TV shows of all time, I'm thinking of The Honeymooners for a sitcom, Dick Van Dyke, even All in the Family, although I can't watch that anymore. Can't watch it. Dramatic shows. What have I seen recently? The Nurses, a show I just discovered from the early 60s. The Nurses, brilliant. Naked City, brilliant. A one-season show with Mike Connors called Tightrope. Absolutely amazing. Why that lasted only a year is beyond me. And Mannix lasted forever. This trumps, so to speak, Tightrope trumps Mannix. Check it out. It's on YouTube. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But even something bizarre like Twin Peaks, there's the creativity. Yeah, there's a satanic side to that. I guess there's a satanic side to everything I did mention. But we need to counterbalance that somehow. And I don't know how you're doing it. I mean, if Christian people aren't drawn to the arts, if Christian people aren't exposed to it, then how are we going to get it out there? I'm just throwing out the problem. I don't know how to solve it. When I was in the theater, I used to read the New York Times theater section quite often, and especially the London Times theater section to see what am I missing, and what would I pay money to do? What would I pay money to see? Well, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but about 6 or 8 months ago, I looked at the New York Times theater section, and you know how much money it costs to go see a show. There wasn't one show on or off Broadway that I would sit through. You couldn't give me a ticket to any one of those shows. Not one show up there would I go see. Nothing. They're all Disney redos of their movies, like freaking Lion King. I mean, come on. It's all that type of crap, extravaganza crap, garbage that was ushered in by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice over 40 years ago with Jesus Christ Superstar, which mocked our Lord, and that signaled the end of Broadway right there. It did. Whether you like it or not, that's exactly what happened. I think it's a perfect opportunity for filmmakers, Christian filmmakers, and I'll even mean Christian filmmakers, those with a conservative point of view, even. You could still be somewhat moral, at least from the world point of view, not from a Christian point of view, from a world point of view. From a world point of view, and be moral, to a certain extent. I mean, look at Little House on the Prairie. That was a very moral show, although it was lacking Christian values. Don't get them confused. I don't know if I would let my child watch Little House on the Prairie without an explanation, because Michael Landon was not a Christian. Now, his son seems to be a Christian, and he's a Christian filmmaker. But Little House on the Prairie was too new agey. And that other series he did after that, what was that? Highway to Heaven, real new agey. So so you have to be very careful about what you let your children watch, even the so-called moral stuff. I never sat through an episode of Touched Like an Angel, so I can't comment on that one. I've heard both things about that. But I'm calling out to the young people out there who love Jesus, or at least have a conservative point of view. With all the trash and garbage out there, I think this is the perfect opportunity for some people to create some high-quality works of art. Not just little, tiny, crap things, like I was telling about that show I can't remember the name of, that Christian show that was on TBS that was about the theater. Something Street Theater or something. I can't remember the name of it. that had really good episodes, really good writing. The actors were totally on the ball, and then then other episodes that sound, wow, they're out to lunch. Where was the director? Who wrote this garbage? And the actors, where did they put? They left their talent in the dressing room. That we don't need in the Christian community. We don't need this in the conservative community. We need the Charlie Chaplins to use him. We need the Cecil B. DeMilles. We need the Tennessee Williams of our faith to step forward and do what they're supposed to do best. And that's create with the Lord in mind. Comment as you see fit.